911. What's going on? What's going on? You heard shots? What's the door, please?
The winter wind cut across the empty parking lot of Mount Carmel Baptist Church, rattling loose gravel and dead leaves. The building itself sat quietly on the edge of Culmersneil, Texas, a town so small it barely registered on a map. Inside the church, a supervised child visitation had just ended. Outside, someone was already waiting. Moments after the church doors opened, gunfire shattered the stillness. When police arrived just after noon on January 18, 2014, they found two bodies near the entrance. 35-year-old Nathan Maddox and his wife, 31-year-old Crystal Maddox, had been executed in broad daylight. Crystal had been shot first, struck in the head and killed instantly. Nathan tried to reach her. He didn't make it. He was shot again as he lay on the ground. Inside the locked church doors was a 5-year-old girl named Madison, Nathan's daughter, along with her maternal grandmother, Letha Westfall, and a Child Protective Services caseworker. Madison never saw what happened. The killings were precise, fast, and targeted. Nothing was stolen, there was no struggle. Shell casing suggested a rifle, but investigators would later discover a shotgun had also been used. 2 weapons, 2 shooters. To understand why the murders happened, investigators had to go backward, years backward, into a custody fight that had grown toxic long before the shots were fired. Nathan Maddox had one child, Madison, from a previous marriage to Kristen Westfall. Years earlier, Nathan had worked out of state, sending money home, believing his marriage was stable. One day he returned to an empty house and a letter ending the marriage. Kristen cut off contact and refused to let him see his daughter. What followed was a long legal fight just to be part of Madison's life. Kristen lived with her parents, Paul and Letha Westfall, along with her younger brother Cameron. Madison was raised in that household, and the grandparents made it clear they did not want Nathan involved. Around that same time, Nathan reconnected with Crystal, an old acquaintance from school. Crystal had 4 children from a previous marriage and had built her life around them. She worked multiple jobs, ran small businesses, and was deeply involved in local pageants and photography. Nathan embraced her children immediately, stepping into the role of a full-time parent. When Nathan and Crystal married, tensions escalated. Madison loved spending time with Crystal, especially dressing up, playing with makeup, and being included alongside Crystal's kids. That bond only deepened resentment on the Westfall side. In 2012, Kristen filed for full custody. The legal battles intensified. Then, in 2013, Kristen was arrested for meth possession, not her first drug-related arrest. After that, Paul and Letha Westfall were granted custody of Madison. They cut Nathan off completely. Nathan and Crystal documented confrontations, raised money, worked extra shifts, sold belongings, and fought through the courts. Eventually, they won supervised visitation rights. The visits were ordered to take place at Mount Carmel Baptist Church. January 18, 2014 was one of those visits. It was expected to be among the last supervised meetings. Nathan's attorney believed he was close to gaining full custody. At 9:40 a.m., Letha Westfall, already inside the church, sent a text message to her daughter Kristen. "They are here." 2 hours later, another message went out. "Get in place." Shortly after noon, Nathan and Crystal walked out of the church. Gunfire followed. Letha placed the 911 call, hysterical and struggling to speak.
911. What's going on? What's going on? You heard shots? What's the door, please?
The CPS caseworker provided most of the information. Both women said they had not seen the shooter and had locked the door after hearing the shots. Investigators quickly focused on the Westfall family. Motive was obvious, opportunity was narrow, and the use of two weapons suggested coordination. Kristen and her father Paul claimed they were out running errands at the time of the shooting. Paul reportedly suffered a seizure upon hearing the news and was hospitalized. Gunshot residue tests were inconclusive. Despite the lack of immediate physical evidence, suspicion never faded. CPS removed Madison from the Westfall home, citing safety concerns. During their visit, authorities discovered unsecured firearms, methamphetamine, and unsanitary living conditions. A month later, the sheriff publicly named Letha Westfall as a suspect.
Crystal and Nathan Maddox were shot and killed outside a church.
Something of this nature, I take that personally.
The Tyler County Sheriff, for the first time, is naming a suspect in the killings.
There are other suspects, we're not prepared to release those names at this time, but yes, Miss Westfall she's been identified as a suspect.
54-year-old Letha Westfall is Nathan Maddox's former mother-in-law. Last night, officers arrested her on an unrelated charge, felony possession of a controlled substance by fraud.
Then a family acquaintance, Christopher Estes, came forward. He told investigators that the Westfalls had talked openly, repeatedly, about killing Nathan to stop him from taking Madison. According to Estes, the family had asked others to commit the murders. Everyone refused. Eventually, they decided to do it themselves. The entire Westfall family was indicted for engaging in organised criminal activity. Paul, Letha, Kristen, and Cameron. Under pressure, the story began to fracture. Cameron admitted he had disposed of the weapons at his father's request. He later testified that the murders were planned carefully, with no written notes to avoid a paper trail. Paul eventually confessed. He claimed responsibility for the shootings and identified Kristen as the second shooter. According to his statement, Kristen fired first, killing Crystal. Paul then shot Nathan. Letha admitted knowing more than she initially claimed, acknowledging the text messages and the planning. She later accepted a plea deal. Cameron also took a deal, 10 years for tampering with evidence in exchange for testimony. Paul pleaded guilty and received life with the possibility of parole. Letha pleaded guilty and received life with parole eligibility after 30 years. Kristen refused all plea deals. Her trial began in 2016. Prosecutors laid out the custody battle, the texts, the planning, and the coordinated execution. The motive was simple and relentless: control. Nathan was winning, and the Westfalls could not accept losing Madison. The jury convicted Kristen Westfall. She was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. What began as a custody dispute ended in an execution outside a church. A calculated act driven by fear, obsession, and the refusal to let go. No theories, no mystery, just a plan that destroyed everyone involved.